So, have you ever found yourself in that weird situation where you're, achieving all this external success, you get the promotion, the recognition, but you look around and feel like your personal life is just crumbling?
It's such a common feeling. We're going to examine why so many people, high achievers and everyone, feel constantly busy, but at the same time, deeply ineffective.
Right. It's that paradox. You've tried the quick fixes, right? The new diet, the time management app, the positive mental attitude.
And they just don't stick. The foundational operating system, so to speak, it just keeps crashing.
Exactly. You might be a phenomenal leader at work, but the success you chased has cost you the most important relationships. Or you know what to do, you even have the motivation for a while, but it just fizzles.
Well, those standard fixes, the seminars, the quick strategies, that's what we call the personality ethic. And they can help for sure, but for most people, they don't solve the root issue because they never touch the foundation.
So our mission for this deep dive is to get past that surface level stuff. We're going to look at what's called the character ethic. We have to stop just looking at the world we see and start looking at the lens we're seeing it through.
Yes, because that lens, that's what shapes everything. And we're grounding this in an inside-out approach. You have to focus on your private victories, your own self-mastery, before you can ever get lasting public victories.
You can't fake the sequence.
You really can't.
Okay, so let's unpack this personality ethic a bit more. It's everywhere in our culture because it promises fast, external results.
It's all about the secondary traits, things like quick influence techniques, communication skills, just framing things positively.
And those things aren't bad, are they?
Not at all. They're useful.
Oh.
But here's the rub. When they're divorced from actual character, they become, brittle. Or worse, they come across as manipulative.
So what's the inherent flaw then?
If your inner core, your character, is marked by insincerity, then even the best human relations techniques are eventually going to create distrust. People can feel it.
Okay, but I need to push back a little here. I mean, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Yeah.
Sharp marketing, persuasive rhetoric. Isn't technique sometimes more important than character, especially in a digital world where you can't even verify it?
That is a crucial question. And the short-term payoff for technique can be huge, absolutely. But the long-term cost is always the same. You liquidate trust.
Liquidate trust. I like that phrasing.
Think about it. A company with a beautiful mission-driven brand, that's the personality ethic, but inside, the culture is just full of fear and backstabbing. That duplicity is a slow killer. At the end of the day, technique without trust is useless.
So basic goodness is what gives life to the technique.
Exactly. Which means those public victories, the success we chase, can only be sustained if we first get that private victory of genuine integrity.
So if you try to jump straight to fixing your relationships before you fixed yourself.
It's like pushing rope. It's futile. The foundation is just too unstable. And to understand why that inside-out approach is so hard, we really need to talk about paradigms.
Our mental maps.
Our mental maps, exactly. But they're more than that. They're the filters, the assumptions, the conditioning that literally define how we see reality.
And we always say it, but it's so true. The map is not the territory. But we live by our maps every single day.
We do. And if your map is wrong, say you have a paradigm that every colleague is a competitor you have to beat, working harder just gets you to the wrong place faster.
And having a positive attitude just means you're happy about being lost.
Precisely. The first requirement for any effectiveness is getting the paradigm right.
This is where that power of conditioning becomes so clear. There's this brilliant psychological demo with a composite picture.
Yeah.
You look at it and you can see either a young, elegant woman or an old, hook-nosed woman.
Right, and the key is what happens before you see the picture. The instructor conditions the group. They show one half the class only the young woman for 10 seconds and the other half only the old woman.
And then when they project the composite image,
almost everyone can only see the image they were conditioned to see. Even when you tell them the other one is there, they genuinely struggle to perceive it. It's an incredible proof of how our prior experience just completely determines what we see now.
So two people can be looking at the exact same thing, disagree completely, and both be in their own subjective way, right?
And that's why we get stuck. That moment when you finally shift, that aha moment when you suddenly see the other image, that's the paradigm shift.
And that's the quantum change, because it alters how you interpret everything that comes after.
It's what drives all real progress, isn't it? Think about Copernicus shifting from an Earth-centered to a sun-centered universe, or germ theory. That didn't just add a new procedure, it completely changed how we saw sickness.
So if having the right map is step one, What's the actual destination? This brings us to a really foundational principle, and it's summed up perfectly in that old fable about the goose and the golden eggs.
Oh, it's a great one. So a poor farmer's goose starts laying a solid golden egg every day. He gets rich, but he also gets greedy, impatient.
He wants it all now.
Right. So he decides to kill the goose, cut it open, and get all the eggs at once. And of course, he finds nothing inside. And now he has no goose and no more golden eggs.
A simple story with a huge lesson. The PPC balance.
Yes. You have to balance P, which is production, the golden eggs, the results you want, with PC, production capability, the goose, the asset that produces the results.
So effectiveness means keeping those two things in balance.
Always. If you only focus on P, the production, you kill the goose.
Okay.
But if you only focus on PC, just coddling the goose with no output, you can't sustain yourself.
You see this play out constantly in business. The manager who wants a promotion, so they run the machinery at max capacity, no downtime, no maintenance.
And they get incredible short-term numbers, high P.
But they leave their successor a very sick goose, a completely depleted asset. They basically liquidated the long-term capability for a short-term win.
And it applies even more deeply to human relationships. Think about parenting. If a parent is always prioritizing the golden egg, the clean room, the quiet compliance, by yelling or nagging,
They're destroying the PC asset.
they're destroying the child's sense of self-worth, their self-discipline. They're undermining the relationship itself.
But if you prioritize the PC, the relationship, the golden eggs can show up in unexpected ways. I love that story about the father who agrees to take his daughter on an outing.
And she chooses to see Star Wars, which she'd slept through before.
Right, but he focuses on the PC, on the relationship. He agrees to go, he really listens. And when she says, "Dad, you don't understand the philosophy of a Jedi Knight," he actually agrees to be the learner.
And what does he get? A huge P. A moment of incredible bonding and a whole new paradigm for the movie, all because he valued the relationship first. It's an investment, not a cost.
Okay, so shifting our paradigms and our mindset to this PPC balance, it requires something that's really uniquely human, which is self-awareness, the ability to step back and think about your own thoughts.
Without that, we're just victims of determinism. We're just following scripts. The first is genetic determinism. It's in my DNA. My family has a temper, so I have a temper.
Then there's psychic determinism. My childhood shaped me. That trauma is why I react this way.
And maybe the most common one today, environmental determinism. My boss is making me miserable, or my spouse is the problem. They all treat us like we're just stimulus response machines, like Pavlov's dogs.
But our self-awareness lets us stand outside those scripts. We can choose our response. And the most powerful example of this comes from, well, the darkest place imaginable.
The story of Viktor Frankl in the Nazi death camps. He was a psychiatrist, a determinist by training. But there, stripped of everything, he discovered the fundamental principle of human freedom.
And what was that principle?
He realized that while his captors controlled the stimulus, everything happening to him, they could not control his response. He found that between stimulus and response, man has the freedom to choose.
So how did he do that practically?
He used his internal disciplines, his memory, and his imagination. He would project himself into the future, picturing himself in a warm lecture hall, teaching his students the lessons he was learning from his own torture. He exercised that tiny embryonic freedom until he had more spiritual freedom than his captors.
That's profound. It means that in our own frustrating moments, a bad review at work, a traffic jam, we have that same internal freedom that Frankl found.
Exactly. And that ability to choose comes from our other human endowments. Imagination, conscience, that inner sense of right and wrong, and our independent will. The ability to act based on our values, not just our feelings or conditions.
So to live by instinct is to be like an animal. But to exercise these endowments, that's what fulfills our human potential.
And this internal freedom shows up in how we focus our energy. Proactive people put their energy into their circle of influence.
The things they can actually control, their own behavior, their attitude, their choices.
Exactly, and they spend very little energy on the circle of concern, the things they worry about but can't control, like the economy, the weather, other people's weaknesses.
Reactive people do the opposite. They focus on the circle of concern, and their own circle of influence actually shrinks because all they do is blame and feel victimized.
The language we use is a dead giveaway. Listen to reactive language. That's just the way I am. It makes me so mad.
Or I have to do that, if only. It's all about transferring responsibility.
Now compare that to proactive language. I can choose a different approach. I control my own feeling.
I will, or I prefer.
Yeah.
You're owning the choice.
And this even applies to something as powerful as love. There's that story of the man who says his marriage is flat. He tells the counselor, I guess I just don't love her anymore.
And the counselor's response is just, love her.
So simple, but so profound. The man objects, but the feeling isn't there. And the reply just cuts through everything. Love is a verb.
That is the total reframe. We think of love as a noun, a feeling that just happens to us.
But the feeling of love is the fruit of love, the verb. Proactive people subordinate feelings to values. They act, they listen, they empathize, they serve. The loving actions come first, and then the feeling follows.
It's a choice.
It's always a choice. And so is owning our mistakes. Acknowledge a mistake, correct it, learn from it. You literally turn a failure into a success. It's not admitting it, covering it up. That's the second, much bigger mistake.
So this brings us right back to where we started, the inside-out approach. The private victories of self-mastery, proactivity, character, they have to come before the public victories.
You can't skip the planting and go straight to the harvest, but, we have to be realistic. This takes a lot of effort, breaking these old habits. It's hard.
Horace Mann said, habits are like a cable. We weave a strand of it every day, and soon we can't break it.
That's a great way to put it. The energy it takes is like the Apollo 11 launch.
Yeah.
It burned more fuel in the first few minutes just breaking Earth's gravity than it did for the next 500,000 miles.
Habits have that same gravity pull, but once you break free, you get this whole new dimension of freedom.
So here's our challenge for you. Just try the principle of proactivity for 30 days. Work only in your circle of influence. Make small promises to yourself and keep them. Be a model, not a critic. Just work on on what you are.
And if you find yourself slipping, if you start thinking the problem is out there, my job, my spouse, just stop. That thought right there, that is the problem.
Because the real power to influence your life comes from working on that inner core. It's like Samuel Johnson said centuries ago, the fountain of content must spring up in the mind.
And he who has so little knowledge of human nature as to seek happiness by changing anything but his own disposition will waste his life in fruitless efforts.
It all starts with your disposition, with what you are. That's the blueprint for effectiveness.